This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's regularly scheduled City Council meeting. Today is Wednesday, June 9th, 2021, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could all please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, could I have the roll call?
Councilmember Boff,
Present.
Councilmember Williams,
Present.
Councilmember Strobehn,
Here.
Councilmember Cerveny,
Here.
and Councilmember Hill,
Here.
and Mayor Thornton.
Present. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Council, you'll see that there's actually 2 weeks of minutes and 2 weeks of payables. That's because I overlooked the consent agenda at our last meeting. I apologize for that. However, if there are no requests for any items to be removed, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you, Council. On the agenda is citizens' public comment. Clerk, do we have any citizen public comment this evening for the meeting?
Yes, one public comment that I can read. Hello, my name is Amber Peterson. I'd like to request the City Council consider opening the splash pad on Memorial Day weekend. It's always hot enough at that point. I inquired about the reasoning behind waiting to open it until the last day of school and was told it's because older kids leave campus at lunch, play in it, and return to class wet. Unfortunately, restricting the opportunity for kids under 5 years old who aren't yet in school and the many homeschooled kids in the area who would like to utilize it during that time. I propose that the city consider one of the 3 options. The first, turning it off during their lunch period and then turning it back on when their lunch is over. The second, waiting to turn it on for the day after their lunch period is over. The third, only turning it on during the weekend while school is in session. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. And clerk, could you check just to make sure that everybody has been muted?
Yes, I just did. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So next is the mayor's report. I do have a few items to go over with the council this evening. First of all, the 4th of July is quickly approaching. So I just wanted to review this evening the La Center Municipal Code as it pertains to fireworks. First of all, just a reminder that legal fireworks sales times in the city of La Center are from June 28th through July 4th, and the times they're allowed to be sold are from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. And then for the legal discharge of fireworks, fireworks can be discharged in La Center on July 3rd from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. and on July 4th from 9 a.m. to midnight. And just a reminder, it's the fire marshal in consultation with the mayor may suspend or ban the discharge of fireworks or common fireworks upon consideration of current moisture levels, wind speeds, lack of rain, and other fire-related factors. So I just want to again review with the council and with the community that that is our current municipal code as it pertains to fireworks. Also, council, I think you are all aware that AWC will be having their Wednesday, June 23rd. This will be a virtual conference. If any of the council members would like to attend that conference, please let Maria know and she will get you registered. Also, as part of that conference, there will be an election for the AWC Board of Directors. So if you are going to attend, I'd like for you to also sign up to be a voting member for the election of the directors for the AWC board. So just let Maria know. I will be attending the conference. Also a reminder that my next mayor town hall will be Thursday, July 1st. And this time I'm going to have it at 6:30 p.m. Attendance has been a little bit light at my mayor's town hall, so I thought I would set it for an hour later, and maybe some of the people that are coming back from work will be able to join us. That also will still be a virtual meeting. And just a reminder, council, that we will be having our next retreat next Tuesday, Thursday, June 15th, and it will begin at 5:30 p.m. And then finally, Monday, June 14th is Flag Day. The American Legion will be putting the flags on the La Center Bridge this Friday. I just want to thank them in advance for doing that. It's always great to see the flags go up. And I can say that every time the American Legion puts the flags up, I always get lots of compliments for how wonderful it looks. So I just want to thank them for providing that service to our community, and we always look forward to the flags going up. So thanks again to the American Legion. That is all that I have this evening, council. Next on the agenda is the attorney's report. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. We have talked before about the COVID restrictions and public meetings and use of public facilities. So I just want to touch briefly on that. The governor's office keeps announcing that June 30th is sort of a target for opening up Washington. As we currently are given guidance by the governor's office, we are required to have a virtual element to our public meetings. There's the possibility of having in-person public meetings if you also provide a virtual element to the public meeting. I reviewed some agreements for the use of public facilities, our sports fields, community center, and in those, what we are telling groups who want to use those facilities is that they can do so, but they have to follow the governor's guidance, mostly on outdoor recreation. There's some very specific guidance issued by the governor's office. And I think what we will see towards the end of the month is the governor's office issuing new guidances for use of public facilities and public meetings, and we will adjust our protocols and requirements based on that new guidance. So for the meantime, we're operating under what the current guidance is, and I anticipate probably very close to the end of the month, we will see new guidance. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bronson. We're all looking forward to that new guidance and starting to have things open up more. Next are council comments. Councilmember Boff.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I just clarify, what was the next mayor's town hall date?
It's going to be July 1st.
July 1st. Okay.
Yeah.
One at 6:30?
Thursday, July 1st at 6:30 p.m. Correct.
Okay, thank you. I was distracted. I didn't have it on my calendar. I have nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Councilmember Strobehn.
I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Cerveny.
Thank you, Mayor. I too would just like to express my heartfelt appreciation to the American Legion for their practice of getting the flag up for the various special days. And I know that it means a great deal to the community. And I think it's a great example for our youth as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And Councilmember Hill. Councilmember Hill, you're muted.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and guests this evening. This afternoon, I virtually attended the Port of Ridgefield Commission meeting, which is held just prior to our meeting. Just a couple things from that. Doug and I were able to go over yesterday and meet with Kevin Witt, who is the VP of their Innovation Center and Development Group over there. And we were able to go through their new Discovery Center, their new building that they're going to be occupying here and doing training in. And so that was pretty exciting to see how they're coming along with that as well. And we're hoping to get some word to our local high school regarding the capability that they'll be able to provide to the various schools. Second item, just quickly, as I talked about the bridge last time, the bridge at this point, that will be opening across the railroad track there towards the river. Will be open late October, and that looks like that's still a pretty good date. So that'll be a big celebration for the city of Ridgefield for that when that takes place. So that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Next on the agenda are staff reports. We do have 2 staff reports this evening, and this one will be presented by Chief Richardson. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Have a good evening, and hope you're enjoying the weather. So for the May 2021 report, we had 11 reported crimes in the community. We had 2 burglaries, one of which was actually a burglary of a shop at a residence that was actually in unincorporated county, but we took a courtesy report. And that was some tools were taken, a bicycle, and they attempted to take a vehicle. The other burglary, they entered a house and stole a laptop and a cell phone, and we were able to, owner was able to use the Find Me app on the, to find his cell phone, which was over in the parking lot of the casino. And the officer was able to go over there, locate the car, and locate somebody in the car who admitted to breaking into the house. And so we were able to recover the property and book that person into the jail. So that was actually a pretty good case, thanks to technology. We had 1 simple assault. It was a DV-related assault, as almost all of our simple assaults are. This one was a son versus father, where the son assaulted the father, and that case was referred to juvenile court. And we had 8 thefts, all kinds of variety of thefts, but primarily we had a couple of mail thefts. We had some building materials. We had somebody, a known suspect, went into somebody else's checking account and stole some money out of their checking account, a couple of vehicle prowls, and then we had another catalytic converter that was taken over a period of, I believe, several weeks, and it was over at one of the schools, another school van that lost their catalytic converter. So again, crime-wise, we average between 10 and 12 crimes a month, and 11 is right in there with that average. And moving on, we had 3 arrests. There's a heat map that I always included. You can see that this time around, the thefts and the burglaries and everything were pretty spread out throughout the community pretty evenly. There wasn't one specific area where everything was occurring. And then May 2021 arrest, we had 1 burglary arrest, which I mentioned at the casino, 1 other offense, and then the simple assault DV. And again, arrests are down and will continue to be down because we're still, even though they passed a new law that allows us to make drug arrests, which now is only a misdemeanor, so you can't even book them into the county jail. Really, the first 2 times that they're arrested, you have to offer them diversion. And there is no system in place right now to track those diversions because they're offered diversion anywhere in the state where the arrest is made. So they get arrested once in Seattle, they come down here to the center, they get arrested again. You can only divert them, you can't book them. And again, there's no system to actually track the diversions, nor is there any system in place for us to actually divert them into a program. You would have to go through as an agency and identify programs in your area, which we're waiting for the state to actually put something together. So it's kind of convoluted right now. The one thing you can do, and this is what VPD is doing, Vancouver Police Department, is you can simply take their drugs that are illegal for them to possess, book them for destruction, and write a report. So that's kind of where we are right now, kind of waiting for the system and the support and the infrastructure to catch up with the law that's now in place. So you're going to see that since we don't make drug arrests, we used to have plenty of them up at the junction, that you're going to see arrests probably go down a little bit. The next is the monthly calls for service. And as you can see, they're pretty consistent. April, May, 208 and then 187. The community initiated calls are again pretty consistent, 96, 102. And where you're seeing a decrease, obviously, is an officer initiated activity for several reasons. Number one, obviously, the fact we can't make drug arrests. And number two is the fact we have less police officers out there doing preventive patrol, so they're not making the car stops that you would see more officer initiated events. And so that's kind of right on with what you would expect with our staffing and the nature of the laws right now. Calls or service monthly comparison. If you compare April 2020 to April 2021, again, you can see police initiated activity is down substantially. And then again, you can see community initiated events where people are calling us is pretty consistent, 116 to 102. And then that's the total calls for service, which is impacted by the decrease in officer initiated activity. And then reports by source, again, pretty consistent. Total reports are right in the average there. It looks like January is a big month, but they've kind of slowed down, and we're averaging somewhere between 45 to 50 reports a month. And again, police initiated reports are down for the same reasons I've mentioned. And we'll move through that. If you have any questions after that, there's just some summer crime tips, and summer's coming. The typical crime tips, you let a neighbor know that you're out, you're on vacation, let them watch your house, collect your mail, collect your newspapers out of the driveway, or at least throw them up on the porch or out of sight somewhere. And make sure that your house is locked when you go on vacation or when you leave for a couple hours, because the houses do get burglarized. And a lot of times the houses are actually unlocked and people are just going in. Keep your garage doors closed late at night. It's pretty, when the weather's warm, we like to leave everything open. People come along and grab something out of your garage. And, don't typical common sense stuff. Don't tell everybody on Facebook that you're leaving and going out of town for a month and give them your address, because somebody else will go fishing for that information. And then again, the community messaging on the catalytic converter issue, there are ways that you can actually secure your catalytic converter to prevent thefts. And then, does anybody have any questions regarding this before I move on to one other thing?
I was just wondering, was the La Center Police Department involved with the incident up at the junction?
No, not at all. We didn't have, we were on mutual aid that night, and we didn't have anybody involved in that shooting at all. So, which at the end of the day is a good thing, because if we would have, then that person would go out on admin leave and we'd lose that person for 30, 60, 90 days, however long it took to get back and be able to get released back to duty.
Right. So we were on mutual aid that night, so we didn't have any coverage ourselves then. Okay.
No, not that night.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. But I'd like to just move on. There's a lot of chatter on the internet locally about our police staffing and why we aren't doing certain things. I just want to kind of paint a picture with some facts instead of just what you hear on the social media. So currently in the state of Washington, there's about 67 police departments, not counting Seattle or Tacoma or the tribal police. There's 67 police departments that are currently looking for lateral applicants. So put that in your mind. 67 different departments all out there at the same time trying to entice lateral applicants to come work for them. More than a dozen police departments are offering some kind of signing bonus, anywhere from $7,500. And if you haven't heard recently, Richfield is now offering a $20,000 hiring bonus, which is the highest hiring bonus in the state. It's basically $10,000 to go to work for them, and then another $10,000 to go towards either buying a house or renting in the city. So they're going to try that to see if that gets anybody to bite and go to work for them. One of the things people have to remember is that in entry level, if we hired an entry level person today, the next academy isn't until September. And so you have to hire them now, like the sheriff and everybody else does. In the old days, you would just tell them, hey, wait till the academy and come to work. But we can't do this in this part of the state because people will steal them either from you, from locally, or they'll go across the river in Oregon, where a lot of times they can get into academy class a lot faster. So what happens is these small departments like us, we have to hire them today, have them come to work, and you literally can't do anything because there's nothing really to do in a small department. So you would pay them through September before you send them to the academy. And then they go to the academy. It's 6 months roughly. And then they come back out and they go to FTO training. And so it takes a entry level takes about 18 months from the start of the application process when you're actually recruiting people till the time that they're out by themselves, 18 to 24 months. And again, the next academy isn't even until September 30th. We hired somebody today. A lateral applicant from out of state can go to what's called a 2-week equivalency academy. And obviously you can get them on board quicker, but it still takes anywhere from 6 months to a year for them to get out there and be solo, depending on when you can get them into the equivalency academy. And right now there's only 2 equivalency academies that are scheduled, one in July and one in September. So those are the two. That's some of those another issues that's kind of impeding everybody's opportunity to get people actually into the academy. And then the other thing that can happen, like what recently happened in Battleground, is they have an entry-level person that they've recruited. They get into the last couple of weeks of the academy, and so that means they're about a year into that applicant by the time they're in the last couple of weeks into the academy, and the person decides they don't want to be a police officer anymore and they quit. So you're out all that time and effort for that one person. So that does happen. So the other issue we have, obviously, in the country is there's people are not applying for police officers' jobs. And as a matter of fact, retirements are up in agencies. And the other thing is people are just plain quitting and going to other professions. And so that's all impacting everything you see before you. Currently, our current police staffing is 3 total police officers, a sergeant and 2 officers. One of those officers is currently deployed till next year. And then another of my 2 officers is currently on light duty for an off-duty injury. So we really only have 1 police officer that's available to work. So even if I had somebody that was graduating from the academy tomorrow, I don't have the ability to even have a field training program with 1 police officer. So I just want to make it clear that we're aware of, I'm aware of it, the city council, I'm sure you're aware of it, the mayor's aware of it, everybody's aware of it, the police chiefs in the country are all aware of it. Everything that is happening right now is impacting everybody across the board. And so now that's what you're starting to see is people are starting to offer money as an enticement to come to work for us. So if, you know, Richfield's offering $20,000, somebody else is going to have to offer 25 or 30, and you get into these bidding contests before you even actually get the person out in the field and working, you're paying them this money. So I just want to bring everybody up to speed, and that's where we are in the state of the profession right now. One other thing people are asking me all the time is, how are we doing with the county? And I want you to know that we're doing what I expected. Anytime you're in negotiations with another entity, and, you know, so you're talking the county and the city of La Center, and they have their governing body and we have ours, it takes time. Nothing happens overnight. We did have a very good meeting today. We'll have another meeting in 2 weeks because of somebody's not available next week, but our intent is to meet at least once a week and get this thing moving, to get something to council. I'm hoping, and I think I've said this before, by the end of July, come up with some kind of proposal that I can bring to you that we can make decisions off of. And I apologize, it doesn't have, again, nothing happens overnight, and everybody moves on their own schedules. And you know, we're a lot leaner. We can respond to things a lot quicker than the county can, just because of the size. So that's basically what I have. If anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, Chief. Yeah, I'd like to thank you as well, Chief. I really appreciate all your hard work and efforts in working through these issues, challenging issues, and difficulties that we're experiencing right now. I truly appreciate it.
Chief, thanks for that detailed explanation. That was great.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is Dennis. I appreciate the in-depth information you're providing to us, because you're able to seek out these details that us commoners, I'll call them, aren't able to do. And I appreciate just the seriousness of this whole issue across not only across our state, but across the country, regards to the lack of officers that are available or wanting to even be available. So again, thank you for all your hard work.
Okay. So we do have one other staff report this evening. It's the Public Works staff report, and the Public Works Director, Mr. Matt Jenkins, will be presenting. Matt.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, citizens. Matt Jenkins, Public Works Director. I've got the staff report for Public Works for June. I'll start off with operations and facilities. Public Works continues to keep properties maintained and drainage systems clear throughout the city. And as always, the crew is continuously monitoring and repairing potholes throughout the city, along with any other road hazards. During this past spring and winter, over a 6-month period, the crews applied over 3,000 pounds of cold patch to fill potholes throughout the city. So pretty significant. We're trying to maintain the integrity of the paved roadways here in town. But once you see that figure of application, it's pretty staggering. But even for a small municipality like ourselves, the unusually dry spring has allowed right-of-way mowing, and in some areas that are typically not mowable are being mowed. And usually those aren't approachable until summer, but we had an incredibly dry April. The community center remains closed due to COVID-19, but the parks and play structures are open. Little note on that, we're assessing that every few weeks, and hopefully maybe by July we can reopen the community center. So the Splash Park is anticipated to open on June 23rd. We're excited about that. I know a lot of families are as well. Under Parks and Grounds, playgrounds and public restrooms remain open. There are porta potties at Pollock Park and the new recreation area on the south of the bridge. Please limit bathroom use to one person at a time and wear a mask. We've got signs posted for that. Battleground and Clark County work crews remain unavailable or limited in size. And so we're staying in constant contact with them, but hopefully by July we can start to get some work crews out here as well. They're just having a hard time filling their slots currently, and but it's no longer a problem with getting the workers in the van. It's just becoming a problem with filling the slots with workers, is my understanding. So mowing, pruning, and weed control are ongoing. That'll be going on all summer. And on the personnel side, currently all staff are working normal shifts. All appropriate safety precautions are being followed for COVID-19. On days with excessive heat, the crews work an earlier shift. This provides for increased employee safety and efficiency. And to expand on that, if days are going to be over 87 degrees forecasted, we bring the crew in an hour earlier so they can get the majority of the hard outdoor labor done before the high heat of the day. So they'll be out an hour earlier than normal on those days. So if you call and the public works staff is gone a little earlier and you have a need, that's usually what happens on those hot days. But we do have employees on pager ready for response. As far as projects, staff has been assisting with the pre-construction of the new City Hall remodel. They've done a great job in prepping and doing pre-construction prep through the main floor, the upper floor, and the lower floor. My hat's off to them on that. And moving on to wastewater operations. All plant parameters remain well within the NPDES permit. No surprise there with our plant. Just does a great job of treating water. The biosolid shipments continue on normal weekly deliveries. But as of June 22nd, 2021, the city of La Center will no longer process the city of Columbus biosolids. And it may be earlier than that. The reason for that is that their sludge conditioning no longer matches with our process. And so it is taking an extreme amount of time away from our daily operations, our laboratory time, and our maintenance time to just monitor that process, because what happens is our polymers don't bind with whatever is wrong with their sludge or whatever they have coming in, and it blows out. And by blow out, I mean it no longer binds with the sludge, so it can't de-water, and the water pours out. And the operators, each incident takes between 30 minutes to an hour to correct, and each week we've had 7 to 8 of those for the last few weeks. So we may have to shut it down before that, but CLAM is aware of the issue. Staff has continued to optimize the plant for warming weather conditions. That's year round. It's either warming or cooling. The biology changes, and they have to continue to monitor that and make adjustments as necessary to make sure we maintain compliance with that NPDES permit. On the maintenance side, routine preventative maintenance is ongoing. Staff are repairing the faulted breaker on pump number 2 at the Riverside lift station. That'll be under warranty, but they did identify it. We've notified the original vendor and an electrical company, and they're going to come out and do that hopefully in the next week. On the administrative side, the May discharge monitoring report is being compiled and prepared for submission to Ecology. The laboratory accreditation renewal has been submitted to Ecology for review. I expect to answer back on that either this week or next. The annual report for industrial users will be submitted to Ecology by June 15th. And staff's currently working regular shifts, but maintaining social distancing practices. On the project side, the automation group has started work on the SCADA upgrade project. On-site work should begin by late June. The new and existing system will run in parallel for 30 days in order to work out any issues. And by what I mean here, to clarify, is they've started work in outlining everything and making sure what we can do, but they can't start actual work until we move forward with the approval for that system, which will come in a later staff report tonight. Building department. Permitting and construction are still progressing at a strong rate. Staff's conducting an average of 12 to 15 stops per day with 20 to 40 inspections per day. Some days we see up to 60 inspections per day. So that's still going at a really robust rate. Single family residential plan review times are currently 3 weeks, up from 2 weeks, but still probably one of the better return times in Clark County. And that still includes a 3 to 5 day wait in quarantine. Staff has taken in, as of this, when I wrote this report last week, staff's taken in 66 single family building permit applications since the start of the year. The new middle school project is continuing to increase its need for building inspections. went from a few times a week to daily to now it's a good portion of our building officials' day. Staff are working regular shifts, but the office space remains closed to the public without an appointment due to COVID-19. But staff is working with people, and appointments can be same day or short notice. On the stormwater side, some of you may have seen our street sweeper is back in service with both the Public Works lead maintenance work, our seasonal employee both having a Class B CDL to operate the vehicle. So that's great. Main streets will receive priority, but we are going to focus on neighborhoods once time allows. Clark County staff are still conducting the MST testing. I believe they've done 2 tests at this point. They're going to work on a 3rd, and that is to identify possible bacterial sources infiltrating the stormwater system in the section between 5th Street and 10th. And the center staff expect results by the end of June, and we'll continue to work with the Department of Ecology, Clark County, and partners in correcting that issue. And that's my report. Any questions?
I have no question, Matt, but I got to tell you, I'm out in those ball fields twice a week, 3 times a week, and your staff has done a stellar job. Those fields are, they are the mark to set for the area. In fact, I hear that from quite a few teams that are coming in and renting those fields. They are spot on. So I want to tell you thank you. Your guys are doing a great job.
I appreciate that, and I will relay that to them. Thank you very much.
Hey, Matt, this is Randy. I was glad to see our street sweeper out running. It's good that we have 2 people that can operate it now. The other thing I noticed on the little spat of warm weather, that new area south of the bridge was just jammed with people. So definitely a good idea to do that. Dave, again, needs to really be thanked for that, because I know he kind of spearheaded that. It was great. And all over the Pollock Park kayak area, it was just jammed too. So people are coming to the center, and your staff has a lot to do with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Matt, for all of the hard work with your team, and the detail of your reports is so very helpful. Thank you very much.
And I want to second Tom and Brandy's comments as well. Matt, great job. Keep it up.
Thank you.
This is Doug, and I'll jump in here also. Yes, Randy's observations were right on the mark. I mean, both sides of the bridge have been packed on those hot days, and even since things have cooled off a little bit, I'm seeing some level of activity nearly every time I cross the bridge. Looks really nice. My wife commented on it the other day too. She noticed the improvement, and she was quite impressed with it. So I just want to thank you and your team, Matt. And good report tonight too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all council members. I'll be sure to relay that to the team. Really appreciate your comments.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Great report. Appreciate the comment. So next on the agenda is we do have a public hearing this evening. The public hearings on the consideration of an ordinance approving the First Amendment to the Development Agreement for Riverside Estates and a purchase sale agreement. And the city attorney will be presenting this evening, Bronson Potter. Bronson?
Thank you, Mayor. Council and Mayor, before you tonight is a consideration of an ordinance which would approve the First Amendment to the Riverside Estates Development Agreement and approving a purchase and sale agreement. If you'll recall, back in July of 2019, the city entered into a development agreement with ECM Riverside LLC that related to the development of the Riverside Estates subdivision, which basically consisted of 3 phases of development. First phase was a single-family residential. Second phase was another single-family residential development, and the third phase is a multifamily residential development. The development agreement called for parks to be provided through a number of small, I'll call them pocket parks within phases 1 and 2. And phase 3 was left with the requirement to provide a public recreational facility within phase 3, or if phases 1 and 2 provided enough parks to satisfy the requirements for all 3 phases, the parks could be provided within phases 1 and 2. From that, last summer, almost a year ago, on June 24th, 2020, we brought forward to council a proposed first amendment to the development agreement that called for shifting the park requirement from little pocket parks within phases 1, 2, or 3 to a community park in what we called phase 4, which is a tract that's about a little over 5 acres. And the council approved the amendment to provide for the community park in phase 4 with the little pocket parks in phases 1 and 2 to be maintained by the homeowners association as passive open space. The approval last June was made with a couple of conditions, and one condition was that the developer obtained the permits that were required to develop phase 4 park and to provide security either through a performance bond or a letter of credit for the construction of the park. So since that action last June, the developer worked on plans to develop the parks and applications to obtain the permits required. There are wetlands and wetland buffers within the phase 4 property that had to be worked around. So that process for developing the plans for the phase 4 park took a little bit of time. While that was going on, the Riverside Estates developer, ECM Riverside LLC, was placed into a receivership proceeding in the Clark County Superior Court, and a receiver was appointed in November of 2020. Now, the impact of that for us was that the receiver has the authority to assume or reject all contracts that are still undergoing performance and haven't been fully completed. And that included the development agreement. And I reported to you a couple of times on actions that the city was taking in the receivership proceeding to require the receiver to either assume or reject the development agreement that we entered into back in 2019. So after a hearing in the court, the receiver did assume the development agreement, and we have been negotiating with the receiver and the developer of phase 3, the home builder in phase 1, on the terms of the First Amendment to the development agreement. So what we are putting before you tonight is really very similar to what you considered in June of 2020. In fact, I would say in all material respects, it's the same amendment. And that is that this amendment, again, makes the park requirement the development of a phase 4 park, a community park of approximately 5 acres, in lieu of the development of these little pocket parks. And those areas will still be maintained as passive open space. Once the park, the phase 4 park, is completed, part of the proposal is that the city will purchase that property for $175,000, which is the average of 2 appraisals of the property, the land itself, in an unimproved condition. What we are doing for the developer of the park is because the community park is within our capital improvement program, the developer is entitled to receive park impact fee credits, or if credits have already been paid, refunds for the development of the park. So essentially, what we just had to do is go back through all these steps, make sure that all the affected parties, including the receiver now, were on board with the terms of the amendment that was actually proposed back last year. And everybody has come to an agreement on that. And so we've got before you an ordinance that would approve that first amendment and the purchase and sale agreement. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Honestly, Bronson, I thought this was done last year. So when I seen this on the agenda, I was a little confused, honestly. So I read through it. This is really just because of all the impact fees and such. So we needed to make adjustments for that and the costs. Is that what that really comes down to?
Well, really, it was. It is a bit of a head scratcher. I'll grant you that. But it's more because the developer defaulted on his loan with the builder's capitals who financed the development of the project. And part of the terms of that financing were that if there was a default, the developer consented to the entry of an order appointing a receiver. And so once that occurred, we were back to square one and having to confirm that the receiver assumed the development agreement, and then going through all the terms of this proposed amendment with the receiver and all the other parties and confirming that everybody was still in agreement with the proposal. So as it was last year, we still had some of the agreed upon terms were park impact fee credits and refunds, and those are the same today. But it was just, honestly, it was the receivership proceeding that made us sort of reset the clock and go back and go through all these steps again.
Okay, so our ordinance or what we passed last year wasn't good enough for the receivership, so we need to redo it then, basically.
Well, as it turns out, what we did last year is good enough. It just took several months to confirm that.
Okay. All right, clear as mud, Bronson. Thank you.
Hey, Bronson, this is Randy. Was that 175,000 in the previous agreement?
Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you.
Bronson, on the change to the trails, does that change the total, the length of the trails or the overall dynamics much?
So that change to the trail was in last June's amendment as well. It does change the length of the trail. And I don't know if Tony's on the line or not. He could speak more specifically to that. But what the problem was is because of wetlands, the trail as originally proposed turned out to be infeasible. And so we altered the trail requirement because of that.
Okay.
Mayor, I've got a question here. Bronson, maybe. I know the 175,000 is coming out of the park impact fees. Will there be any hit to the general fund in this process?
No, this does not rely on the use of the general fund for any aspect of this proposal.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, Council. If there are no other questions for the city attorney before I open up the public hearing, I'll go ahead and do that. Again, I'll just give you one more opportunity to ask any questions you have before I open up the public hearing. Okay. With that being said, it's right now 7:20. I'll open this public hearing up for discussion and public comment. If anyone attending the meeting this evening has a comment, if you could please give us your name and address, and if you could limit your comments to 3 minutes. And we'll do our best to try to accommodate everybody here in an orderly fashion. If a couple people start talking at once, we'll do the best we can to pick one to go first. Anybody with a public comment? Okay. Not hearing anyone, I will close the public hearing, turn it back over to the council for further discussion or questions. And
Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance 2021-09 as presented this evening.
I second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 2021-09 as presented. Clerk, if I could get a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Boff,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Councilmember Strobehn,
Yes.
Councilmember Cerveny,
Yes.
Councilmember Hill,
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-09 is motion carries to approve unanimously. Well, thank you, council, and thank you for your presentation this evening, Bronson. And I want to thank both you and Jeff Swanson on all your hard work and endeavors to bring this in for a landing. Yeah, that was quite the process to put this all together. I know you've worked very hard on it. There've been a lot of parties involved, a lot of moving parts. Everybody worked together to get this done. So I want to thank you very much for all your hard work, and you as well, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So we have one item this evening under new business. It's the staff report and capital projects update for the wastewater SCADA upgrade system. And Mr. Matt Jenkins will be presenting. Matt?
Thank you, Mayor, Council, citizens. Matt Jenkins, Public Works Director. So what I'd like to present is a staff report for the wastewater treatment plant SCADA upgrade. The background of this is in 2020, staff recognized a growing need to upgrade our current SCADA software and server and laboratory workstations. The main need for the upgrade is due to the inability of the current SCADA software to connect with new computer hardware and additional wastewater system assets, such as new pump stations and instrumentation throughout the city and the system. The city's purchasing policy suggests section 6.5 requires approval from the council for any purchase of $10,000 to $99,999. This was approved in the capital budget, but it does need to come before council. Budget impact, the total project cost to the City of La Center's wastewater utility capital fund will be $62,906. The original budgeted amount for the project was $65,000. And staff recommends that City Council approve to execute the wastewater treatment plant SCADA upgrade project.
Hey, Matt, real quick, the materials that are being handed in this, the Dell Precision Tower and stuff, did they actually give you a full breakdown of cost? I seen some numbers down there, but I didn't really, you couldn't tell what you were being charged for, except it just being a package deal.
Yeah, no, they didn't provide the individual cost for those.
And the reason I asked is because they give you the specs that they have in those PCs and such are pretty powerful. So, I don't know what the software actually does. Does it do any CAD? Have anything to do with CAD?
No, it doesn't do CAD, but it does a lot of data tracking, basing, and then pulling from that, and then it does a lot of trending as well.
And they're going to handle it from A to Z then, that price?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And, you know, this is one, you know, this is a safer system. Our system is becoming outdated, you know, with the infrastructure problems we've seen across America recently with ransomware, things like that. This will help with that, I believe. And then along with, as our hardware has failed over the last few years, we've had to run virtual machines on new hardware just in order to run our old system. So, and I'm sure you in the industry can attest that virtual machines, while serviceable, they're not the most reliable way to do business. And then along with that, we're going to go away from an internet-based alarm system and go back to a traditional dialer, because it's what they've found is a lot of these hackers are coming in through internet-based alarm systems, and the dialer just doesn't provide that opportunity. So.
Right. Yeah, that part does make sense. We do have protections on the system though, right?
Yes, we do. We have firewalls. Yeah. Correct.
And those are kept current?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Matt.
You bet.
Aren't any other questions? I'd like to get a motion.
Mayor,
Go ahead, Liz.
Mayor, I move to approve the executive and execute the capital project of the La Center Wastewater Treatment Plant SCADA upgrade.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to execute the capital project of the La Center Wastewater Treatment Plant SCADA upgrade. If I could get a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Boff,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Councilmember Strobehn,
Yes.
Councilmember Cerveny,
Yes.
Councilmember Hill,
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Council, and thank you, Matt. Great report and presentation. Appreciate all your work.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
That concludes our meeting for this evening, Council. If I could get a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Council. Have a great evening, everyone. I appreciate your.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Thanks for joining us.